I'm CJ from CJ's Aquatics, and today I'm going to show you how to take a Tupperware dish or a small storage bin and turn it into a humidity box for your snake or your lizard or whatever needs humidity. Fairly simple, and you don't need anything more than a small container. I like to use airline and a razor blade. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut a hole here, and we're gonna put the airline around the edge of the hole so that this thin plastic can't hurt our reptiles, and fill this up with moist moss. And the benefit of this is if you have a snake like a ball python, you can keep the humidity where it should be, but when it comes time to shed, instead of trying to adjust the whole tank's humidity, you can easily add one of these bins or always have the bin in there, and your reptile has the choice. Does it want to be in high humidity or does it want to be in less humidity? It can make that decision on its own. So let's get started. You can draw whatever hole you want and cut it with a razor. I'm a little too lazy for that, and so what I'm going to do, and I want a perfect circle, is I'm going to use a hole saw. So we'll do that real quick. All right. Now this is the part you got to be a little careful. First, get some of this plastic out of here that doesn't need to be there. A little fine piece of sandpaper would probably do better than my fingers. And you're going to want this to be about the same length as, I just make a circle around that, and where it meets back up, cut it. Alright, so now we're going to cut this down the opposite way, or try to at least. And the reason we're cutting it like this is so that we can put it around that plastic edge, and we have a nice smooth soft silicone cover for the edge of our thin plastic. We don't have to worry about our snake just went in there or our lizard just went in there and had a nice beautiful shed, and now the little guy's going to come out and scratch himself on his new fresh skin. We don't want that. You want to be careful so you don't end up actually cutting all the way through and cutting this tube right in half. Okay. Now we have our little protective noodle, and I'm just going to start at one end. Best thing to do is put your seam on the top or on the side, so if you cut this just a little bit too short, you don't end up with a bare spot somewhere that your pet's actually going to be touching. The best place to buy this airline is you can get it at any Meijer or Walmart really cheap. If you don't have fish tanks and you don't want to have very much around, I sell it by the foot, so you could buy, well, I'd even sell you a half a foot if you're just doing enough for this small little thing. Got a little extra there, so we're going to cut that off. And there we have it. Now we have a nice rubber thing protecting our reptile. I don't have any moss to show you today, but what I would do is I stuff a bunch of moss in there. Doesn't matter if you use peat moss, sphagnum moss. You can go ahead and add coconut husk in there. Anything that's going to retain that moisture. I think sphagnum moss is best. You can even, if you have fish tanks and you have an abundance of your Java moss, you can put your Java moss in there. And that's about that. Then you close it up. Every once in a while you can mist in there. Another method is you can put your hole at the top and you can bury this so it's kind of hidden. You don't have to see anything besides a hole in the dirt. Makes your enclosure look a little more natural. I'm not too worried about that. I like to see the little guys in here. This one's going to go in a null tank. So let's talk a little bit about moss. Depending on where you buy it, you don't know what it's been through. A lot of companies, they harvest their moss, they dry it, maybe even sun dry it naturally, then they package it and it comes to you. In order to make sure it's safe for your pet, I recommend finding something you know doesn't have fertilizers, it's just moss, which Zoo Med and tons of companies on Amazon and other places have. Like you can buy Eco Earth, all that's great. But I still recommend get it moist, throw it in a mixing bowl, and run it through your microwave. Sterilize it yourself so you know there's no risks of any other little insects in there or mites. It's a small, easy precaution to take, and it's well worth your while. One other thing I wanted to talk about while we were talking about adding humidity, well, in order to do that, you need to add water. And you need to make sure that you're adding dechlorinator to your water. I've heard of a lot of people aren't using dechlorinator. Dechlorinator, this stuff right here, what it does is it removes chlorine, chloramine, and any other heavy metals. It's only about $6 for a small bottle of this. This bottle can treat up to 1,920 gallons. It's way too cheap not to do it, even if you haven't been for a long time. It's great to use dechlorinator for your house plants, all of that. With house plants, now I'm kind of getting off topic, but with house plants, if you're not using dechlorinator, the nitrogen cycle that you have running in your aquarium runs in the soil of your house plants. And so when ammonia gets added, that needs to be transferred by bacteria. If you're adding just sink water and it has chlorine and chloramine, you're killing that bacteria. And you might not directly be harming your plant, but you are doing something that's going to harm them in the long run. And you won't be able to just add whatever you want to the soil to fertilize them, such as, let's say you had a goldfish pass away and you wanted to bury it in your house plant to add that fertilizer so that your fish isn't just going to waste. The issue with that is if you're pouring chlorine in your dirt all the time, that bacteria isn't going to be strong enough. So you're going to produce ammonia in that, but there's not going to be enough bacteria to cycle the ammonia to nitrite. And then that another bacteria is going to cycle the nitrite to nitrate. We'll get further into that on another video, but back to the point of this one. Real simple, real easy. If you need any help or you have any questions or you don't want to take the time to do this and you just want me to throw one together for you and ship it to you, feel free to contact me on CJ's Aquatics Facebook page. Hope you guys all have a great day. Thank you for watching my video. Please like and subscribe.